The academy stood tall on the edge of the city, its silver towers shining under the purple sky. Ships came and went from the spaceport nearby, dropping off students from all over the galaxy. Some were tall, some had 4 arms, some didn't even walk, they floated. But today, one student arrived who looked different from the rest. His name was Luke Jennings. He was human. He stepped off the shuttle with his small bag slung over his shoulder, eyes wide as he took in the towering alien cadets around him. They towered over him, some were twice his height. Others had skin that shimmered like glass, and a few had glowing eyes that watched him with curiosity or amusement. A large lizard-like cadet laughed when he saw Luke. "What's this?" he said, nudging his friend. "Kid, did he get lost on his way to school?" Others joined in, their voices deep and rough, their laughter echoing through the landing pad. Luke kept walking, pretending not to hear them. He had expected this. Humans weren't known for being warriors. They weren't feared, respected, or even taken seriously in the galactic military circles. Most aliens thought humans were weak, slow, and outdated. He reached the entrance where a tall, thin instructor waited. She had green skin and long ears that twitched slightly as she studied him. "Jennings," she said, looking at her tablet. "Human." "Yes, ma'am," Luke said politely. She raised an eyebrow. "You're sure about this?" He nodded. "Yes, ma'am." She gave a short sigh. "All right. Welcome to the Intergalactic Defense Academy." Inside, the halls were wide and lined with glowing panels. Students moved in groups, talking in many different languages. Luke walked alone, feeling every pair of eyes that turned toward him. He passed by a group of female cadets with smooth metallic skin. One of them whispered something, and they all laughed. Ahead, 2 large insectoid cadets blocked the hallway. As Luke tried to pass, one of them shoved him lightly with a clawed arm. "Watch it." "Hey, meatbag," the taller one sneered. Luke stumbled back but stayed calm. He didn't respond, just adjusted his bag and kept moving. He found his room easily. Enough. It was small, clean, and had a single bed, a desk, and a window that looked out over the training fields. He sat down on the bed and looked around. This was it. He was really here. The next morning, the alarm woke him early. He got dressed quickly in the standard uniform: black pants, black boots, and a gray shirt with the academy logo. He joined the other cadets outside for the first day of class. They stood in a line while the instructor, a grizzled old warrior named Commander Velik, walked up and down the row. He was a hulking brute, covered in scars, with metal plates built into his body. "Today," he said, voice booming, "we begin combat training. You will learn how to fight, survive, and win. Those who cannot handle it will be sent home." Stopped in front of Luke and stared down at him. "And what do we have here?" he asked, looking at the tiny human. "Cadet Luke Jennings, sir," Luke said clearly. Velik tilted his head. "Human. Interesting. I've never seen one in combat class before." "Well, here I am, sir," the commander snorted. "See if you last the week." Then he turned away and continued the roll call. After the introduction, the class moved to the training hall. It was a huge room with padded floors, practice weapons, and holographic opponents. Luke stood in line with the others as the instructor explained the rules. First, lesson, hand-to-hand combat. They were paired up. Luke looked across at his opponent, a massive reptilian cadet named Kathrak. He was nearly 7 feet tall, with thick muscles and sharp teeth. He cracked his knuckles and grinned. "This should be fun," Kathrak said. Flexing his claws, Luke took his stance. The match started. Kathrak charged forward like a tank, swinging wildly. Luke ducked under the first punch, barely avoiding. The second hit him square in the chest and sent him flying backward. The other cadets laughed. Luke groaned as he hit the floor. He pushed himself up slowly, shaking off the pain. "Get up," the instructor called. "If you fall, you get back up faster." Luke stood again. Kathrak came at him once more, fast and brutal. Luke tried to dodge, but he was too slow. Another punch caught him in the stomach and dropped him again. More laughter filled the room. "Is that all you've got, human?" Kathrak said, smirking. Luke didn't answer. He wiped blood from his lip and stood once more. This time, he didn't wait. He rushed in, and tried to strike first. He managed to land a light punch on Cathrek's side, but it barely made the big cadet flinch. Then Cathrek grabbed Luke by the collar and lifted him off the ground. "Cute," he said. Before throwing Luke across the mat, the match ended soon after. Luke lay there, sore and bruised, as the instructor called for the next pair. No one helped him up. He climbed to his feet alone. The rest of the class continued. Each match was brutal for Luke. He faced Zelra, a telepathic Zelari girl who could sense his moves before he made them. She danced around him like a ghost, striking with perfect timing. He faced a quadrupedal cadet with 4 arms and lightning-fast reflexes. He couldn't keep up. He faced a floating jelly-like creature that used electric shocks to stun him every time. He lost, but every time he watched. He studied how they moved, how they fought, how they reacted. When the class ended, Luke limped back to his room, sat on his bed, breathing heavily, every muscle aching. He opened a small notebook and began writing. Asterisk, Cathrek. Strong, fast, aggressive. Doesn't think much. Charges in. Greater than. Zelra. Uses telepathy. Must find a way to block. Or confuse her. Greater than. 4-armed cadet hits fast. Needs counter rhythm. Greater than. Floating enemy. Avoids direct contact. Use terrain. Asterisk, he wrote everything down. Later that night, he left his room and walked quietly to the training hall. It was empty. He turned on the lights and began practicing alone. Ran drills. He practiced footwork. He worked on dodging, blocking, and timing. He fell many times. He got back up every time. In the days that followed, Luke trained whenever he could. During breaks, after meals, late at night, he was always there, working. He didn't talk much. He didn't try to make friends. He focused only on improving some. Cadets noticed. "Why does the human keep coming back?" asked. "Maybe he likes getting hurt," another replied. But others watched with curiosity. One instructor, a quiet woman named Lieutenant Maurice, observed him during a late-night session. "He's not strong," she said to herself, "but he's smart." Weeks passed. Luke still lost fights. But now he lasted longer. Sometimes he landed a solid hit. Once. He even made Cathrek stumble. No one laughed anymore. They just watched. Because something was changing and Luke knew. He wasn't just surviving. He was learning, and he was ready to fight back. Luke Jennings stood in the training hall early one morning, practicing footwork. His body ached from weeks of hard training, but he didn't stop. Every step, every dodge, every punch was deliberate. He moved slowly at first, then faster, until sweat dripped down his face. "You're going to wear yourself out," a voice said behind him. He turned to see Maya Kelso, another human cadet. She wasn't as tall as Luke, with short brown hair and sharp eyes. She leaned against the wall, arms crossed, watching him. "I'm fine," Luke said, wiping his forehead with his sleeve. Maya shook her head. "You can't keep doing this alone. You need help." I don't want to bother anyone." "You're not bothering me," she said, stepping closer. "I've been watching you. You're smart. Smarter than most of them. You're trying. Too hard to do everything by yourself." Luke hesitated. He had noticed Maya before she was quiet, always tinkering with gadgets or studying data pads, but they hadn't spoken much. Now she seemed determined to talk. "What do you mean?" he asked. "You're analyzing their moves, right? Writing notes?" He nodded. "That's good," she said, "but it's not enough. You need someone who understands tech, someone who can help you find weaknesses in their systems." Luke frowned. "Like what?" "Like Zelra, for example," Maya said. "Her telepathy isn't perfect. If you overload her senses, she might lose focus. I can build something for that." Luke thought about it. Zelra's telepathy made her nearly unbeatable. If there was a way to disrupt it. ... double quotes. "Okay," he said finally. Maya smiled. "Start trusting me." From that day on, Luke and Maya worked together. During breaks, they met in the tech lab where Maya spent hours building strange devices. She explained how they worked, and Luke listened carefully. Meanwhile, combat class grew more intense. The instructors pushed the cadets harder, testing their limits. Luke still struggled, but he improved. He learned to read his opponents better, to anticipate their attacks. He started winning small victories, not enough to win matches, but enough. To make people notice, one afternoon, the class gathered in the simulation arena. The instructor announced a new exercise: team battles. Groups of 4 would compete against each other in holographic environments. The goal was simple: survive longer than the others. Luke's team consisted of 3 aliens: a bulky Thracian named Gorlock, a bird-like Xandarian named Rena, and a floating energy being called Plinks.
Oh.
None of them were thrilled about having a human on their team. "This is pointless," Gorlock growled, flexing his massive arms. "The human will just slow us down." "Let's see what he can do," Rena said, tilting her head. "Maybe he has tricks." Plinks hummed softly, its glowing form pulsing with light. "We shall adapt." Luke ignored their comments and focused on the briefing. The simulation would take place in a dense jungle filled with traps, hazards, and enemy drones. Teamwork would be key. When the match began, Luke took charge. "Gorlock, you're strong. Stay in front and draw attention. Rena, use your speed to scout ahead. Plinks, provide cover fire. I'll coordinate." The others hesitated, but followed his orders. The jungle was chaotic. Trees loomed overhead, vines tangled everywhere, and drones buzzed through the air. Gorlock charged forward, smashing obstacles out of the way. Rena darted between trees, spotting enemies before they could attack. Plinks floated above, firing beams of energy at anything that moved. Luke stayed in the middle, directing them. Pointed out weak spots, warned of ambushes, and kept everyone moving. When a drone locked onto Plinks, Luke shouted for Gorlock to throw a rock at it. The distraction gave Plinks time to escape. As the battle went on, the team fell into rhythm. They trusted Luke's commands because they worked. Finally, only one enemy remained, a squad led by Cathrek. They were cornered near a waterfall, weapons drawn. "Gorlock, flank left," Luke said. "Rena, distract them." Plinks aimed for the ground beneath them. The plan worked perfectly. Rena swooped in, drawing fire while Gorlock circled around. Plinks fired a concentrated beam that shattered the ground under Cathrek's team, sending them tumbling into the river below. The simulation ended. Luke's team had won back in the training hall. The other cadets stared in disbelief. No one expected a team with a human to succeed, let alone dominate. "How did you do that?" one of them asked. Luke shrugged. "We worked together." Instructors were impressed. Commander Velik approached Luke after class. "Not bad, human," he said gruffly. "Maybe you're not completely useless." Luke nodded.
Thank you, sir.
But the praise didn't last long. Rumors spread among the cadets that Luke had somehow cheated. Some accused him of hacking the simulation. Others claimed he used hidden technology. Throat confronted him later that evening outside the dorms. "You think you're clever, don't you?" Cathrek snarled, blocking Luke's path. "I just followed orders," Luke said calmly. "Orders? You're nothing but a weak little human? You don't belong here." Luke looked up at him. "Then why are you so mad?" Cathrek growled and raised a fist. But before he could strike, Lieutenant Morris appeared. "Is there a problem here?" she asked sharply. Cathrek lowered his hand. "No, ma'am." Maurice glared at him. "Good. Now move along." Was gone. She turned to Luke. "You handled that well," she said. "I didn't do anything." "Exactly. Patience is a weapon, cadet. Remember that." Luke nodded. "Yes, ma'am." Despite the tension, Luke's reputation began to change. The cadets who once laughed at him now watched him closely. Some even asked for advice on strategy. Maya continued helping him too. She built a device designed to disrupt Zelra's telepathy, a small wristband that emitted a low-frequency pulse. It wouldn't hurt her, but it would confuse her senses. "Try it next time you fight her," Maya said, handing it to him. Luke slipped it on. "Thanks." The opportunity came sooner than expected. During a sparring session, Luke faced Zelra. Again, this time, he activated the wristband before the match began. Zelra tilted her head, confused. "Something feels... off." Luke didn't give her time to adjust. He attacked quickly, striking with precision. Without her telepathy guiding her, she stumbled. Luke landed a solid kick to her side, knocking her off balance. The crowd gasped. No one had ever beaten Zelra like that. When the match ended, Zelra approached Luke. "What did you do?" she demanded. "Nothing illegal," Luke replied. "Just leveled the playing field." She studied him for a moment, then nodded. Clever. Word of Luke's victory spread quickly. Some cadets admired his ingenuity. Others resented him for finding ways to win despite his supposed weaknesses. Commander Velik called Luke into his office later that week. "Sit," said, gesturing to a chair. Luke obeyed. Veli leaned back in his seat, studying Luke. "You've caused quite a stir, cadet." "I'm just doing my best, sir. Your best is better than most." "Tell me, why did you join this academy?" Luke thought for a moment. "Because I wanted to prove something. Not just to others, but to myself." Velik nodded. "Good answer, but proving yourself isn't easy, especially when everyone expects you to fail." "I know, sir." "Keep pushing," Velik said. "Don't let anyone tell you what you can or can't do, including me." Double quotes. Luke left the office feeling uneasy. Was Velik warning him, more encouraging him? Days turned into weeks. Luke trained harder than ever, both physically and mentally. He practiced combat techniques, studied alien physiology, and worked with Maya to refine their strategies. One night as he walked back to his room, he overheard two cadets talking in the hallway. "He's getting too good," one said. "If he keeps winning, we'll look bad. Should teach him a lesson," the other replied. Luke froze. He recognized their voices. They were older cadets who had never liked him. He considered reporting them, but decided against it. Instead, he prepared the next evening. As Luke made his way to the training hall, he sensed movement behind him. Sure enough, 3 figures stepped out of the shadows. "I thought you could sneak past us, huh?" One sneered. Luke stopped and turned to face. "Them I don't want trouble." "Too bad," another said, cracking his knuckles. "You're trouble." They surrounded him, cutting off escape routes. Luke stayed calm. He had expected this. When the first punch came, Luke sidestepped and countered with a quick strike too. The attacker's ribs. The second cadet lunged, but Luke ducked and swept his legs out from under him. The third hesitated, unsure of what to do. Before things escalated further, lights flickered on in the hallway. Lieutenant Morris appeared. "Holding a tablet?" "What's going on here?" she demanded. The attackers scrambled to their feet, muttering excuses. Morris narrowed her eyes. "Get out of my sight, all of you." They hurried away, leaving Luke standing alone. "Are you all right?" Morris asked. "Yes, ma'am." "Good, but next time don't wait for backup. Handle it yourself." Luke nodded. "Understood, ma'am." The weeks passed. Luke's confidence grew. He no longer doubted himself. He knew he belonged here, and soon everyone else would know it too. The academy buzzed with excitement as midterm evaluations approached. Posters hung on the walls announcing the tournament, a chance for cadets to prove themselves in front of military officials and earn recognition. Winners would be promoted faster, given better assignments, sometimes even offered leadership roles. Luke Jennings walked past the posters, pretending not to notice them. But inside he felt a spark of hope. This was his chance to show everyone what he could do. Maya caught up with him in the hallway. "You're entering, right?" "I don't know," Luke said. "It's risky." "Shh, risky. You've been training for months. You're ready?" "Ready doesn't mean I'll win." Maya stopped walking and turned to face him. "Listen, Luke. You've already beaten some of the best fighters here. If you can beat them again in the tournament, no one will doubt you anymore." Luke hesitated. She was right. He had improved, more than anyone expected. But the tournament was different. It wasn't just about skill. It was about endurance, strategy, and surviving against multiple opponents. "Okay," he said finally. "I'll enter." Maya smiled. "Good. Now let's get to work."
Ow.
They spent every spare moment preparing. Maya analyzed footage of previous tournaments, pointing out patterns and weaknesses in potential opponents. Luke practiced new techniques, focusing on speed and precision. Together, They refined tactics that played to his strengths while exploiting his enemy's flaws. As the tournament drew closer, tension filled the air. Cadets trained harder, pushed themselves further. Whispers followed Luke wherever he went. Some doubted him, others feared him, and a few secretly cheered him on. On the day of the tournament, the arena was packed. Students, instructors, and visiting officers filled the stands. Holographic screens displayed live feeds of each match. The atmosphere crackled with anticipation. Luke stood in line with the other competitors, waiting for his name to be called. Cathrock stood nearby, glaring at him. Zelra watched silently, her expression unreadable. Gorlock gave him a nod of respect, while Rena tilted her head curiously. Finally, the announcer called Luke's name. He stepped into the arena, heart pounding. His first opponent was a Thracian warrior named Raxatal, muscular and armed with spiked gauntlets. The match began. Raxar charged forward, swinging wildly. Luke dodged, weaving between blows. The crowd gasped as he slipped past Raxar's defenses and landed a quick strike to the alien's side. Gah! Raxar roared in anger and attacked again, faster this time. Luke stayed calm. He remembered Maya's advice. Stay unpredictable. Instead of retreating, he moved closer, ducking under Raxar's arms and striking upward. The crowd cheered as Raxar stumbled backward, but Raxar wasn't done. He grabbed Luke by the shoulder and threw him across the arena. Luke hit the ground hard, pain shooting through his body. He gritted his teeth and forced himself to stand. Is that all you've got? Raxar taunted. Luke didn't answer. He focused on his breathing, on finding an opening. When Raxar lunged again, Luke sidestepped and drove his elbow into the alien's exposed back. Raxar fell to one knee, stunned. Luke pressed his advantage. Delivering a final blow that ended the match, the crowd erupted. Luke raised his hand in victory, chest heaving. He had won back in the waiting area. Cadets stared at him in silence. No one expected him to defeat Raxar so decisively. His next match came quickly. This time, his opponent was a floating energy being named Vinx. Vinx didn't have a physical form, making it nearly impossible to hit directly. Instead, it fired bolts of energy at Luke. Forcing him to dodge constantly, Luke circled cautiously, searching for a weakness. Then he noticed something. Vinx paused briefly after each attack, recharging its energy reserves. It was subtle, but enough. Waiting for the right moment, Luke rolled forward as Vinx fired. The energy bolt missed, and before Vinx could recover, Luke activated a small device. Maya had built a portable electromagnetic pulse generator. He tossed it toward Vinx, and the pulse disrupted its form, causing it to flicker and fade. The crowd went wild. Luke advanced to the semifinals. His semifinal opponent was none other than Zelra. The telepathic Zellery girl stepped into the arena, her glowing eyes locking onto Luke. She wore a confident smirk, certain of her superiority. Luke activated the wristband Maya had made earlier. It pulsed softly, disrupting Zelra's telepathy. She frowned, confused. "What did you do?" she asked. "Nothing illegal," Luke replied. "Just leveled the playing field." Zelra growled and attacked. Without her telepathy, she relied on instinct, moving quickly and unpredictably. But Luke had studied her fighting style extensively. He anticipated her moves, countering with precise strikes. The match dragged on, both fighters tiring. Zelra grew frustrated, her attacks becoming reckless. Luke seized the opportunity, landing a powerful kick that sent her sprawling. The referee called the match. Luke had made it to the finals. In the waiting area, Cathrak glared at him. "You got lucky," he snarled. "Maybe," Luke said. "Or maybe I'm just better than you think." Cathrak clenched his fists but said nothing. When the final match began, the arena was electric. Everyone wanted to see how the human would fare against the Academy's strongest fighter. Cathrak charged immediately, swinging his massive tail like a whip. Luke dodged, rolling to the side. Cathrak followed up with a flurry of punches, each one narrowly missing Luke's head. Luke fought back, aiming for weak spots: Cathrak's knees, his throat, the joints of his armor. But Cathrak was relentless, shrugging off hits that would have felled lesser opponents halfway through the match. Luke realized something. Kethrak wasn't just strong. He was angry. Furious, even. Every blow carried raw emotion, uncontrolled rage. Luke smiled faintly. Anger made people predictable. He baited Kethrak, letting him land a few solid hits. The crowd gasped as Luke staggered backward, blood trickling from his lip. Kethrak grinned, thinking he had one. Then Luke struck back. He targeted Kethrak's pride, delivering insults disguised as taunts. "Is that all you've got?" Luke said, dodging another punch. "Thought you were supposed to be the best." Kethrak roared and lunged recklessly. Luke sidestepped and delivered a devastating kick to the alien's knee. Sending him crashing to the ground, the crowd fell silent. Kethrak struggled to stand, but Luke didn't give him a chance. He moved in, delivering a series of rapid strikes. That left the reptilian warrior dazed and defeated. The referee raised Luke's hand in victory. The crowd erupted into cheers. Later that night, Luke sat alone in his room, staring at the trophy on his desk. It was a simpler, small statue of a warrior holding a sword, but it meant everything to him. There was a knock at the door. He opened it to find Maya standing there, smiling. "Well," she said, "aren't you going to celebrate?" Luke shook his head. "Not yet. This is just the beginning." Maya nodded. "You're right. But still, you earned this," she held. "Up to cups of sparkling juice? At least toast with me?" Luke laughed and took a cup. "To teamwork?" "And proving them wrong," Maya added. They clinked their cups together and drank. Meanwhile, in the shadows, Commander Velik watched the celebration from afar. Had seen the entire tournament, seen how Luke had overcome impossible odds time. And again Velik turned to Lieutenant Maurice, who stood beside him. "He's something special, isn't he?" Maurice nodded. "Yes, sir. He is." Velik crossed his arms. "Special enough to change things." Maurice raised an eyebrow. "Change what, sir?" "Everything," Velik said quietly. "If humans can fight like that, maybe we've underestimated them." Maurice said nothing. She simply watched as Luke and Maya laughed together, unaware of the ripple effect their actions had caused. From that day forward, Luke Jennings was no longer just a cadet. He was a symbol, a reminder that strength wasn't always measured in size or power. Sometimes it was measured in heart, in determination, in refusing to give up, and the galaxy would never forget it. Luke Jennings woke up early the next morning, sunlight streaming through his window. Stretched and sat up, still feeling sore from the tournament. His body ached, but his mind was clear. Yesterday's victory felt surreal, like a dream, that might fade if he thought too hard about it. He got dressed and went to the cafeteria for breakfast. As soon as he walked in, the room fell silent. Cadets stared at him, some with admiration, others with resentment. Luke ignored them and grabbed a tray of food. He sat alone, eating quietly. Maya joined him after a few minutes. "You're famous now," she said, sliding into the seat across from him. "Don't remind me," Luke replied, taking a bite of toast. "Seriously, people are talking about you everywhere. Even the instructors seem impressed. Does that mean I can skip class?" Maya laughed. "Not a chance." As they finished eating, Commander Velik entered the cafeteria. He scanned the room, his sharp eyes landing on Luke. He motioned for Luke to follow him. "What does he want?" Maya whispered. "No idea," Luke said, standing up. "I'll find out." He followed Velik to his office, a large room filled with trophies and weapons from battles past. Velik gestured for Luke to sit. "Congratulations on your win," Velik said, leaning back in his chair. "You surprised a lot of people, including me." "Thank you, sir," Luke replied. "But winning the tournament isn't the end. It's just the beginning. Do you know why?" Luke shook his head. "Because now everyone is watching you. Other cadets will try to copy your techniques. Enemies will look for ways to exploit your weaknesses, and allies. They'll expect more from you." Luke nodded slowly. "I understand," Good Velik said. "Because I have a new assignment for you." "What kind of assignment?" "Mission," Velik said, sliding a datapad across the desk. "Off-world reconnaissance. We've received reports of strange activity near the border. Zone a group of rogue mercenaries causing trouble. I want you to go there, gather intel, and report back. Luke picked up the datapad and read the details. Why me? Because you're resourceful, Velik said. And because no one expects a human to succeed. Use that to your advantage. Luke hesitated. This wasn't combat training, it was real danger. But he knew saying no wasn't an option. When do I leave? He asked. Tonight, Velik replied. You'll be working with a small team. Lieutenant Morris will brief you before departure. Luke stood and saluted. Yes, sir. That evening, Luke met with Lieutenant Maurice and 2 other cadets assigned to the mission, Rena, the bird-like Xandarian who had been on his team during the jungle simulation, and Plinks, the floating energy being. Both seemed excited to work with him. This is simple, Maurice explained. Infiltrate, observe, and return. Don't engage unless absolutely necessary. These mercenaries are dangerous. They boarded a small transport ship and set off into space. Hours passed as they traveled toward the border zone. Luke spent the time reviewing maps and studying the mercenaries' profiles. They were led by a ruthless alien named Dracker, known for his cunning tactics and brutal methods. When they arrived, they landed on a barren moon, its surface covered in jagged rocks and deep craters. The mercenaries' base was hidden in a valley below. Stay close, Rena said, scanning the area with her keen eyes. I see movement ahead. They crept forward carefully, sticking to the shadows. Luke noticed tracks in the dust footprints, and tire marks leading toward the base. They followed them silently. As they approached, they saw guards patrolling the perimeter. Luke signaled for the others to wait while he observed. He noticed patterns in their movements, gaps in their patrols where they could slip through unnoticed. Follow me, he whispered. They moved quickly, darting between cover until they reached the outer wall of the compound. A device Maya had built, a small drone equipped with cameras and sensors. He activated it and sent it flying over the wall. The drone transmitted live footage to their helmets. They saw rows of tents, supply crates, and heavily armed soldiers. In the center of the camp stood a large command tent, surrounded by guards. That's where Dracker is, Luke said. We need to get closer. Plinks floated upward, creating a faint glow that distracted the guards. While they looked away, Luke and the others slipped inside the camp. They moved cautiously, staying low and avoiding detection. Luke spotted a group of mercenaries gathered around a table, examining a map. Dracker stood among them, his scarred face twisted in concentration. Listen, Luke whispered. Activating a recording device, they heard snippets of conversation plans to attack nearby colonies, steal resources, and expand their territory. Luke memorized key details, knowing this information could save lives. Just as they prepared to leave, an alarm blared. Someone had spotted the drone. Run, Luke shouted. They sprinted toward the edge of the camp, dodging laser fire and diving behind cover. Rena flew overhead, drawing enemy fire while Luke and Plinks made their way to safety. Over here, Rena called, landing beside them. They regrouped and ran as fast as they could, heading back to the ship. Mercenary fighters pursued them. Firing wildly, Luke tripped and fell, scraping his hands on the rocky ground. Get up, Rena yelled, pulling him to his feet. They reached the ship just in time. Luke climbed aboard last, slamming the hatch shut behind him. Rena took the controls and launched them into space. Once they were safe, Luke collapsed into his seat, breathing heavily. His heart raced, adrenaline still coursing through his veins. That was close. Plinks hummed softly. Too close, Rena agreed, but we got what we needed. Back at the academy, they reported to Commander Velik. Luke handed over the recordings and recounted everything they had seen. Vel listened intently, nodding occasionally. When Luke finished, Velik leaned forward. Excellent work, he said. Thanks to you, we can stop Dracker before he causes more damage. Luke felt a surge of pride. For the first time, he truly understood the impact of his actions. Just for himself, but for others. The next day, news spread throughout the academy about the successful mission. Cadets who once doubted Luke now looked at him with respect. Instructors praised him in front of the entire class. Cadet Jennings has demonstrated courage, skill and leadership, Velik announced during assembly. He reminds us all that strength comes in many forms, and that determination can overcome any obstacle. Applause filled the room. Luke stood awkwardly, unsure how to react. Maya nudged him from the crowd, grinning. "Smile," she whispered. "You earned it." But despite the praise, Luke knew the journey wasn't over. Every challenge he faced only prepared him for the next. And deep down, he wondered what lay ahead. Later that night, he stood on the balcony of his dorm, staring at the stars. Maya joined him, holding 2 cups of tea. "Thinking about something?" she asked. "Everything," Luke replied. "What happens next?" Maya shrugged. "Who knows? But whatever it is, you'll handle it. You'll always do." Luke smiled faintly. "Thanks." They sipped their tea in silence, watching the galaxy spin above them. Somewhere out there, new challenges awaited. New battles, new victories, and, maybe, just maybe, a chance to change the future. For now, though, Luke was content to enjoy the moment. He had proven himself not just to others, but to himself. And that was enough. Luke Jennings sat in the Academy library late one evening, surrounded by books and datapads. He was studying alien combat tactics, trying to understand how different species fought in battle. His mind raced with ideas, strategies, and questions. The more he learned, the more he realized how much there still was to know. Maya walked in and sat across from him, placing a steaming cup of coffee on the table. "You've been at this for hours," she said. "Don't you ever take a break?" "What?" "When there's work to do," Luke replied, not looking up from his notes. "Even machines need rest, Luke." He sighed and leaned back in his chair. I feel like I'm running out of time." "Out of time for what?" "To get better, stronger, smarter. Everyone expects me to keep winning, but what happens when I can't?" Maya tilted her head, studying him. "You're putting too much pressure on yourself. No one expects perfection, just effort." Luke shook his head. "It's not about perfection. It's about survival. If I don't keep improving, someone will catch up, and then what?" Maya didn't answer right away. Instead, she sipped her coffee thoughtfully. Finally, she said, "Maybe you're focusing on the wrong thing." "What do you mean?" "You're so busy worrying about being the best that you're forgetting why you started. Remember? You wanted to prove something not just to others, but to yourself." Luke frowned. "And now you've proven it. You've shown everyone that humans can compete. Isn't that enough?" "No," Luke said quietly, "because proving it once isn't enough. I have to keep proving it. Over and over again." Maya sighed. "Fine, but don't burn yourself out. You're not alone, you know. You've got friends who care about you." Luke smiled faintly. "Thanks, Maya." The next day, Commander Velik called Luke into his office again. Luke entered cautiously, wondering what new challenge awaited him. "Sit," Velik said, gesturing to a chair. Luke obeyed. "Word has spread about your success," Velik began. "Not just here, but across the galaxy. People are taking notice." Luke shifted uncomfortably. "People, other academies, military leaders, even politicians. They want to see what makes you tick." "Why?" Luke asked. "Because you're an anomaly, a human, excelling in a field dominated by superior beings. Some see you as a threat. Others see potential. And which one are you?" Velik smirked. "Both." Luke raised an eyebrow. "What does that mean?" "It means I'm offering you a choice. Stay here and continue your training, or transfer to an elite program designed for top cadets. Nice. It's tougher, faster, and far more dangerous. But if you succeed, you'll be unstoppable." Luke hesitated. "What's the catch?" "The catch is that failure isn't an option. Just drop out and you'll never recover. Stay and you risk burning out completely. Sounds risky." "Life is risk, cadet. You know that better than most." Luke thought about it. Staying at the academy meant safety, familiarity, and steady progress. Now transferring to the elite program meant pushing himself to the limit, testing his abilities in ways he couldn't imagine. But it also meant proving once, and for all that he belonged among the best. "I'll do it," he said finally. Velakai nodded. "Good. Report to the transport bay tomorrow morning. Oh, and one more thing. Don't tell anyone where. You're going—" "Not yet." Luke left the office feeling uneasy, but determined. He packed his belongings that night, careful not to draw attention. Maya noticed, though. "You're leaving, aren't you?" she asked, standing in his doorway. Luke froze. "How? Did you know? I know you, Luke? What's going on?" He hesitated, then told her everything. Maya listened silently, her expression unreadable. "When do you leave?" she asked when he finished. "Tomorrow. Can I come with you?" Luke shook his head. "This is something I have to do alone." "Then promise me one thing," she said firmly. "Don't forget who you are. Don't let them change you." Luke nodded. "I promise." The next morning, Luke boarded a sleek black ship bound for the elite academy. The journey took several hours, during which he stared out the window, lost in thought. When they arrived, he stepped onto a platform overlooking a vast training ground. Towering cliffs surrounded the facility, their jagged edges casting long shadows across the landscape. An instructor approached him, a tall, imposing figure with glowing eyes and metallic limbs. "Welcome to Alpha Prime," the instructor said. "I am Captain Krill. Follow me." Luke followed Krill into the main hall, where dozens of cadets stood waiting. They were unlike any group Luke had ever seen. Each one exuded confidence, strength, and skill. Many wore advanced gear and carried weapons far beyond standard issue. Krill addressed the group. "You are the best of the best, only the strongest. We'll survive here. Prepare yourselves." Training began immediately. The first task was simple: climb the cliffs surrounding the academy. No tools, no assistance, just raw determination. Luke looked up at the sheer rock face, heart pounding. Other cadets scrambled upward, finding handholds and footholds with ease. Luke struggled, his muscles screaming as he pulled himself higher. Halfway up, he slipped and nearly fell, catching himself just in time. "Give up, human," someone called. From above, Luke gritted his teeth and kept climbing. Sweat dripped down his face and his hands bled from gripping sharp edges. But he refused to stop. Finally, he reached the top. Exhausted, he collapsed onto the ledge, gasping for air. Around him, other cadets cheered and laughed, celebrating their success, but Luke didn't join them. He simply lay there, staring at the sky, wondering how much harder things would get. Days turned into weeks. The challenges grew increasingly difficult. Obstacle courses tested speed and agility. Sparring matches pushed physical limits. Strategy drills demanded quick thinking and adaptability. Luke struggled at first, falling behind his peers. But he adapted quickly, learning from every mistake. He studied his opponents, analyzing their strengths and weaknesses. He trained relentlessly, pushing himself farther than he thought possible. One night, after a particularly grueling session, Luke sat alone in the mess hall, eating quietly. A cadet named Zara joined him. She was a wiry alien with dark skin and piercing green eyes. "You're not like the others," she said, sitting across from him. "What do you mean?" Luke asked. "You fight differently, smarter. Most of us rely on strength or speed. You think." Luke shrugged. "Thinking keeps me alive." Zara smiled faintly. "Maybe we should team up sometime." "Why?" "Because together we might actually stand a chance." Luke considered it. Teamwork had always been his greatest asset. Maybe Zara could help him reach new heights. "Okay," he said finally. "Let's try it." Their partnership paid off almost instantly. During a team exercise, they worked seamlessly, anticipating each other's moves and covering for each other's weaknesses. Their opponents underestimated them at first, but soon learned otherwise. As the weeks passed, Luke earned respect from his peers. They stopped mocking him and started watching him closely, trying to learn from his techniques. Captain Krill noticed, too. "You're improving," he said, during a private meeting. "But improvement isn't enough. You need to dominate." "Dominate?" Luke asked. "Yes. Show them all why you're here. Make them fear you." Luke nodded, though doubt lingered in his mind. Fear wasn't his goal. He wanted to inspire, not intimidate. Still, he resolved to push harder. He spent extra hours training, refining his skills and building endurance. He sparred with the toughest opponents, refusing to back down no matter how bruised or battered he became. One evening, as he practiced in the empty training hall, Captain Krill appeared. "Enough," Krill said sharply. "You're going to kill yourself if you keep this up." "I'm fine," Luke replied, wiping sweat from his brow. "No, you're not. Rest. Recharge. Tomorrow, you'll face your final test." Luke froze. "Final test?" "Yes. Survive it, and you graduate.
Ew.
And you're done." Luke swallowed. "Hard. What's the test?" Krill smiled grimly. "That's for you to find out." The next morning, Luke stood in the arena with the other cadets. The air buzzed with tension as Captain Krill stepped forward. "Today," Krill announced, "you face the ultimate challenge, a simulation designed to test every aspect of your training. Teamwork, strategy, endurance, all of it. Only the strongest will prevail." The simulation began. Luke and Zara moved as one, navigating treacherous terrain, battling holographic enemies, and solving complex puzzles. They communicated without words, trusting each other completely, as the hours dragged. Fatigue set in, cadets dropped out one by one, unable to continue. But Luke and Zara pressed on, driven by sheer willpower, finally. They reached the end, a massive chamber filled with traps and hazards. At the center stood a glowing pedestal, the objective of the simulation. "Go," Zara urged. "I'll cover." "You," Luke nodded, and sprinted toward the pedestal, dodging lasers and leaping over pits. Just as he reached it, alarms blared, and the floor began collapsing beneath him. He jumped, grabbing the pedestal just in time. The simulation ended, and the room erupted in applause. Captain Krill approached, nodding approvingly. "Well done, Cadet Jennings. You've earned your place among the elite." Luke stood there, chest heaving, heart racing. He had done it. Against all odds, he had succeeded. But as he looked around at the cheering crowd, he realized something important. Success wasn't about proving himself to others, it was about believing in himself, and that belief would carry him through whatever came next. Luke Jennings stood on the edge of a cliff overlooking the academy grounds. The wind whipped through his hair as he stared at the horizon, thinking about everything that had happened. Graduating from Alpha Prime was supposed to be the peak of his journey, but instead, it felt like the beginning of something much bigger. He turned when he heard footsteps behind him. It was Zara, her green eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. "Thinking about home?" she asked, standing beside him. "Not really," Luke replied. Just wondering what's next." Zara smiled faintly. "You're always looking ahead, aren't you?" "It's hard not to," Luke said. "There's always another challenge. Another test." "And that scares you?" Luke hesitated. "No, it excites me. But sometimes I wonder if I'll ever feel like I've done enough." Nodded thoughtfully. "I get that. But don't let it eat at you." "You've already done more than most people could dream of." Luke didn't answer, just kept staring at the horizon, lost in thought. Later that evening, Captain Krill called Luke into his office. The room was dimly lit with holographic screens, displaying maps and data scattered across the walls. "Sit," Krill said, gesturing to a chair. Luke obeyed, feeling uneasy. Krill rarely called cadets into his office unless something serious was happening. "Congratulations on your graduation," Krill began. "But this isn't the end of your journey. It's just the start." "What do you mean?" Luke asked. "The galaxy is changing. Tensions are rising between species. Old alliances are crumbling, and new enemies are emerging. We need leaders who can adapt, leaders like you." Luke frowned. "Leaders? I'm just a soldier. You're more than that," Krill said firmly. "You've proven yourself time and again. Now it's time to take the next step." "What step?" "A mission," Krill said, pulling up a map on one of the screens. "Deep in uncharted space, there's a planet called Zaros. It's rich in resources, but dangerous. Factions are fighting over control, and civilians are caught in the crossfire. We need someone to go in, assess the situation, and stabilize the region. Why me? Luke asked. Because you're smart, adaptable, and resourceful. Because you inspire trust, Evan. Among those who doubt you, Luke hesitated. This wasn't just a mission, it was a responsibility far greater than anything he'd faced before. When do I leave? He asked finally. Tomorrow, Krill replied. You'll lead a small team. Choose carefully. Luke spent the rest of the night selecting his crew. He picked Zara first. Her quick reflexes and sharp mind made her an obvious choice. Then he added 2 other cadets, Rogan, a burly Thracian with unmatched strength, and Tessa, a tech expert who could hack almost anything. The next morning they boarded a sleek reconnaissance ship and set off toward Zaros. Hours passed as they traveled through the vast emptiness of space. Luke reviewed the mission details, studying maps and reports about the planet X. Exaros was a harsh world, covered in jagged mountains and sprawling deserts. Its resources included rare minerals and energy, sources that were highly sought after by both corporations and governments. But the planet was also home to fierce tribes and rogue mercenaries, making it a powder keg waiting to explode. When they arrived, they landed in a remote valley, away from prying eyes. Luke led the team cautiously, scanning the area for signs of danger. Stay alert, he said quietly. We don't know what we're walking into. They moved silently, sticking to the shadows. Soon, they spotted a group of mercenaries guarding a supply depot. Weapons and crates were stacked high, surrounded by armed guards. This must be their main base, Zara whispered. Let's find out what they're hiding. Luke replied. Tessa activated a drone and sent it flying toward the depot. The tiny device buzzed silently, transmitting live footage back to their helmets. They saw mercenaries loading crates onto trucks, their faces tense and focused. Those crates look heavy, Rogan muttered. Whatever's inside, it's valuable. Luke nodded. Tessa, can you tap into their systems? Give me a minute, she said, pulling out a small device and connecting it to a nearby terminal. Within moments, she accessed their files. She said, they're smuggling weapons and worse. Experimental tech designed to destabilize entire regions. Destabilize how? Zara asked. By targeting communication networks and power grids, Tessa explained. If these weapons fall into the wrong hands, it could start a war. Luke clenched his fists. We can't let that happen. What's the plan? Rogan asked. Simple, Luke said. We sabotage their operation. Destroy the weapons, scatter the troops, and send a message that Zaros isn't theirs to exploit. The team nodded, ready to follow his lead. That night, they struck. Under cover of darkness, they infiltrated the depot. Tessa disabled security systems while Zara and Rogan created distractions. Drawing the guards away from the main storage area, Luke slipped inside, planting explosives near the crates of weapons. He worked quickly, setting timers to ensure they had enough time to escape. Luke, Zara called suddenly. Guards are coming back. Almost done, Luke replied, finishing the last charge. Let's move. They ran for the exit, dodging laser fire and diving behind cover. Explosions erupted behind them, lighting up the sky as the depot collapsed in flames. Nice work, Rogan said, grinning. Don't celebrate yet, Luke warned. We're not out of this yet. Sure enough, reinforcements arrived, a convoy of armored vehicles racing toward them. Luke signaled for the team to split up, each taking a different route to confuse the enemy. Luke and Zara darted through narrow alleys, weaving between buildings. Mercenaries pursued them, firing wildly. Luke ducked into a doorway, motioning for Zara to stay low. Wait here, he whispered. Where are you going? She asked. To buy us some time, before she could argue. Luke stepped into the open, throwing a smoke grenade. The mercenaries paused, disoriented. Luke used the chaos to climb onto a rooftop, picking them off one by one with precise shots. When the smoke cleared, the mercenaries regrouped, searching for him. Zara joined him on the roof, handing him a fresh clip of ammunition. You're Crazy, you know that? She said. Maybe, Luke replied, reloading his weapon. But it's working. Eventually, the team reunited near their ship. They climbed aboard and launched into space. Leaving the burning depot far behind, back at Alpha Prime, they reported to Captain Krill. Luke handed over the data Tessa had collected. Detailing the mercenaries' plans and activities, KRYLL studied the information carefully. Excellent work, he said. You've disrupted a major threat. But this is only the beginning. There will be others. Luke nodded. I understand. Good. Because the galaxy needs people like you people, willing to fight for what's right, even when the odds are against them. Luke left the office feeling a mix of pride and exhaustion. He had succeeded, but the weight of responsibility lingered. Every victory came with new challenges, new dangers. That night, he sat alone in his quarters, staring at the stars. Zara knocked softly and entered without waiting for an answer. Still awake? Can't sleep, Luke replied, thinking. About Zaros. About everything, Luke admitted. What happens if we fail? If we can't stop the chaos spreading across the galaxy? Zara sat beside him. We won't fail. Not as long as we keep fighting. But for how long? Luke asked. How many missions like this will it take before things change? As long as it takes, Zara said firmly. And maybe longer. But giving up isn't an option. Luke sighed. You're right. I just wish it were easier. If it were easy, anyone could do it, Zara said with a smile. But it's not. That's why they need us. Luke nodded slowly. Thanks, Zara. Anytime, she said, standing up. Now, get some rest. Tomorrow's another day. Luke lay down, closing his eyes. The galaxy was vast, unpredictable, and full of danger, but somewhere in the chaos. He found purpose. For now, that was enough. As the ship drifted through space, carrying him toward whatever came next, Luke Jennings vowed to keep moving forward, no matter the cost.